for food. The best land for growing food plants is where grasses used to grow. These were large fields of grasses, quite different from the neatly cut lawns you may be familiar with. Once, all these parts of the United States shown in green on this map were grasslands, often called prairies. After the settlers moved west, they changed the prairies. They burned and plowed and brought in big herds of sheep and cattle to graze in the grass. Now wheat and corn grow in many places where there were once prairies. And sagebrush and other shrubby plants now grow in places where plowing and too much grazing by cattle and sheep have destroyed the grass. The few prairies that are left do give us some idea of what the great grasslands used to be like. Not all grasslands are the same. Some are moist and have tall kinds of grass. Where there is less moisture, there are shorter kinds of grass. Do you think that there are differences within a prairie? Grasslands are made up of many different areas. Each of these areas serves as a home or habitat for many different kinds of living things. Even a small valley may include two or more different habitats. There may be more water in the soil on one slope than on the other, and different plants will grow there. For example, drier soil serves as a habitat for cactus and certain other plants. Stream banks and other wet areas are good habitats for trees and for animals that live in trees. Tall grasses make a good habitat for certain small animals, because the grasses give the animals food and a place to hide from their enemies. But in short grass prairies, you find completely different kinds of animals. These animals need to see over the plants in order to spot their enemies. The soil itself is a habitat for other kinds of animals that can dig into the ground. Different kinds of soil have different kinds of animals in them. What are some other habitats in a grassland? While plants and animals are a part of the habitat, they also change the habitat. One of the best examples of this is the big bison herds that used to roam all over the American prairie. How might they have changed the habitat? When the bison rolled on the ground, they made dents or depressions with loose soil around the edges. The loose soil served as a habitat for hunting wasps and other small animals. The depressions often filled up with water during. These served as habitats for toads and frogs, and for water fleas and other tiny animals. Bison often destroyed ponds by drinking up most of the water and trampling down the plants at the pond edge. they changed the prairie habitat in many other ways. The bison wastes, or dung, served as a habitat for dung beetles and other insects. As they moved across the prairie, they ate large amounts of grass. They trampled grasses and other plants and packed down the soil. How would this overgrazing change the habitat? Many plants died. The grasses that were left were cut short. This enabled certain animals, such as jackrabbits and prairie dogs, to move in. Prairie dogs dug many tunnels or burrows underground. How might this have affected the soil? The prairie dogs built little hills or mounds around the openings to their burrows. They also cut the grass right down to the ground or pulled it out around their mounds. Why did they build mounds and remove most of the grass? How might this have changed the habitat? With many of the grasses destroyed, other plants moved in. Pronghorn antelope came to feed on the new kinds of plants that now grew around the prairie dog towns. And some kinds of meat-eating animals, called predators, moved into the area to feed on the prairie dogs and on other animals living in the prairie dog towns. Other animals moved into abandoned burrows within the prairie dog town. Although many different kinds of plants and animals may live in the same habitat, they can all survive only if they don't compete for exactly the same kinds of food. All the animals that share the burrows with the prairie dogs eat different foods. Prairie dogs eat mainly grass and seeds. Snakes eat birds' eggs, mice, toads, lizards, and very young ground squirrels. Burrowers eat most mice and grasshoppers, but sometimes they also eat young prairie dogs and small snakes. Black-footed ferrets almost always eat prairie dogs. Ground squirrels usually eat seeds and other plant parts, though they sometimes eat insects. Box turtles eat grasshoppers and other insects, as well as plants. And toads eat worms and small insects. So each kind of animal that lives in a habitat can survive only so long as it does not compete with other animals for exactly the same food source, and so long as the habitat stays the same. But a habitat can be changed. Sometimes it's changed by natural causes such as fire, flood, or drought, which means a long period without rain so the ground gets very dry. Habitats can also be changed by living things, the most important being man. How does man change habitats? Whenever he plows the land, builds roads, or cities, or irrigates, or fills in low areas, man changes habitats. Changes in habitats can cause changes in the kinds of animals found there. For example, when the white man moved into the American prairies, he upset the plant and animal life. He killed almost all the bison, elk, and antelope. This reduced the amount of food for coyotes, wolves, and mountain lions. And when man and his animals cut or removed the tall grasses, thousands of prairie dog towns sprang up. Farmers complained that the prairie dogs were eating all their pasture grass. Poisons were put out to kill the prairie dogs. The poisons did kill them, but they also killed coyotes, badgers, foxes, black-footed ferrets, golden eagles, and burrowing owls that ate mice, prairie dogs, and other small animals. With their natural enemies gone, the number of rats, ground squirrels, rabbits, and grasshoppers increased, and these animals ate much of man's food. In order to kill these pests, man had to use more poison, such as insect sprays, which killed birds and other animals. Much of the killing would not have happened if man knew where different animals live and what they eat. Man put out the poisons before he understood what effect they would have on all the living things in the grassland. Man is changing or destroying grasslands in many parts of the world. Ecologists would like to keep the grasslands that have not already been destroyed. By studying these prairies and the plants and animals that live there, ecologists can learn how to avoid the mistakes of the past